Nobody wanna chat like that, yeah. Nobody wanna chat like that. Nobody wanna chat like that, yeah.
Yo, what's good, people? Welcome to Between the Lines. You're joined by
your homie Quan
and your boy Zeus.
So before we get into it, help some brothers out by subscribing, liking and commenting in the comments below, and let us know what you think at the end of the video.
So in this video, we're going to be going through the bounties of each of the supernova that are currently fighting on the rooftop.
How this is going to work is we're going to be analysing and predicting bounties based on the defeats on Onigashima. We're also going to factor in how the world and the media itself might be perceiving the battle going forward.
Now, each of the supernova are going to be ending up with two separate bounties. How we're going to be looking at this is the same way that we look at it at school. So over here in the UK, when teachers give you the grades they feel you're going to get at the end of the year, you get given your predicted grades and your aspirational target grades. And this is the same kind of logic we'll be using when assigning the different bounties to the supernova. They'll each be getting an aspirational bounty, which is the bounty we feel that they could be assigned if they were recognised for all their feats throughout their time in WANO. And they're also going to be getting predicted bounties, which is the bounty that we feel they're most likely going to be assigned, given the way that the world government and the media may spin the achievements by the end of WANO. Now we got all that out of the way, what are we saying? Who we talk about first?
So alright, boom. First up is Murder Machine Killer. Right by now he's got a bounty of 200 million. During his time in WANO, he's built quite a reputation for himself as Commander the Manslayer. During the little clash him and Zoro had, he's been shown to be able to hold it down, even inflicting damage on my boy Roro. We could argue that he literally lost because he didn't have his punishers, as he mentioned chapter 101, and the fact that he ate a smile fruit. He's even been shown to be able to inflict damage on the King of the Beast himself, Kaido, by being able to think outside the box and bypass his scales by using attacks such as Decapitation Claw and Sonic Scythe. We can also talk about his endurance feats, as he's been able to tank named attacks from Big Mom such as Indra.
Also, during his time alongside the Straw Hats raid on Onigashima, Killer does a good job of showing his competence as a strategist by being the first one to identify Apu's weakness in chapter 981. He goes on to show a further understanding of Kaido's tough exterior by realizing that his scales would be hard to penetrate and understanding that he would need to use an attack that'd be able to go through him, which kind of interesting foreshadows how Luffy's fighting Kaido in a moment in chapter 1010. Now, depending if he actually applies these attributes to his upcoming fight against Big Mom, these skills could give him the edge in actually managing to do something significant, worthy of giving him a bounty increase. So looking at the fact that Killer is able to hang in there against these two Yonkos during this battle, we think it'd be fair to say that he'd do pretty well against second, third Yokon commanders that we've seen in the story so far. This would be the likes of Cracker, Jack, possibly Smoothie, maybe even Queen.
Based on everything we just mentioned, we believe that Killer's aspirational bounty would sit somewhere around 1 billion berry and his predicted bounty will be 800 million. Cool, 1 down, 4 to go. The next person we're going to talk about is Law. He's currently sitting on a bounty worth 500 million. When discussing Law, his feats are a little harder to explain than the rest of the other supernova. He's more of a playmaker than a combative force. Law's powers are a little bit more intricate than the rest. Even Kaido mentions this in chapter 1010 when he says his powers are throwing him off. That being said, Law still manages to land heavy attack damage on Kaido, landing an injection shot and a gamma knife on him. Law's also able to tank named attacks from Big Mom such as Indra and Heavenly Fireballs.
Now, can't lie, it was good to see Law involved in a little rivalry between him and Luffy and Kid. It's been a while since we've seen him being shown in the same light as we saw when they were first introduced in Saba OD. Law's overall role on the rooftop has been crucial, as he's been the one responsible for saving the lives of each member countless times. He seemed to be the main strategist behind the plot to separate and remove Big Mom from the battlefield. As a doctor, his medical knowledge will most likely be used to tend to the wounds of the injured members of the Alliance. As Quan also mentioned earlier, Kaido accredits the tricky nature of Law's fruit, which is showed in him backing out the new ability, Curtain. Now, this lets us know that we still don't have a full understanding of the scope of Law's abilities, which could only add to his notoriety. depending on his future involvement in taking down the Yonkos. Earlier on, Law was also shown to have an interest in gaining knowledge around the poneglyphs. This could suggest that he has his own plans and own motivations moving forward, even after WANO. And if this is realized, then he may become a more dangerous force than we've known him to be.
Additionally, his ties to the D-Clan might also be a factor in a higher bounty later down the line for Law. I thought we should just mention it. Taking all these factors into account, we feel like it's appropriate if Law's aspirational bounty was 1.25 billion and his predicted bounty is 950 million.
Alright, so moving on now, let's talk about Eustace Captain Kid. When looking at Kid's feats throughout his time in WANO, they've been a little underwhelming to say the least, but there's still hope. Admittedly, it would appear that his attacks have dealt the least amount of damage when thinking about Kaido's pain tolerance and the type of attacks he was trying to inflict on him. However, he has still shown versatility of his fruit usage by the diverse way he has been able to mold and create new attacks. Well, new to us anyway, seeing as we haven't seen any of his attacks before. Now, he's also showed his competence by being the leading force in the plot against Big Mom, showing his ability to adapt alongside his abilities. Earlier in the arc, Kaido mentioned that Kid is yet another holder of Conqueror's Haki, which would prove crucial in his upcoming fights as we now have begun to understand the capabilities of Conqueror's Haki. Looking back at it, his entire reason for even being involved in the raid in the first place was to face off against Kaido, and so this would heavily suggest that he should have some sort of significant role to play in the eventual outcome of this battle.
Talking about early in the arc, Kid has been shown to make light work of Apu, who's been a tricky obstacle for Luffy, Zoro and Drake on several different occasions. Also, in the latest chapter, we see that it appears that Kid is going to be squaring up against Big Mom, which is going to keep the rivalry between himself and Luffy ongoing. Since Luffy is going to be able to square up against Kaido one-on-one, it would make sense for Kid to at least step up and hold his own against Big Mom. This is of course after he gets his ass whooped and hones his skills at Conqueror's Haki. In the latest chapter, Hawkins remarks that he wouldn't be able to handle both Kid and Killer by himself, but when Kid goes off to fight Big Mom, Hawkins claims that the odds of winning have shot up to 92%. Now to me that's a big number. This is the same Hawkins who confidently went up against both Luffy and Zoro early in the arc. Kid's endurance has also been A1. He's been able to tank heavily fireballs and Inchira from Big Mom and a punch to his face by Big Mom, which is quite impressive. He's been able to land a Gibson Slam and a Punk of Ice. It seems that Oda has made the effort to distinguish Kid above the other supernova, and so through portrayal at least, he is consistently being shown as another front runner for the next generation. Now that Kid is getting this potential 101 of the Yonko, this would be Oda's attempt to get Kid out of Luffy's shadow, establishing Kid as a candidate for a future Yonko, which could be reflected in his bounty increase.
Now, the rivalry between Kid and Luffy places Kid at a comparative level to Luffy, and so this should be reflected in their bounty increases. On the other hand, Kid's involvement in the raid could group him in with the Straw Hat Alliance. This could accredit a lot of Kid's efforts towards Luffy's notoriety and would see more of a subordinate's increase in bounty. Kid's current bounty sits at 420 million berries. Considering everything that we've spoken about, we think that Kid's aspirational bounty could be around 1.8 billion berries, and his predicted bounty will sit somewhere around 1.2 billion berries. The main reasoning behind this is comparing Kid's potential bounty jump to that of Luffy's after Whole Cake Island. If Kid was to hold his own or take down Big Mom, he would effectively surpass Luffy in terms of battle capabilities where he was at when he took on Katakuri and Whole Cake Island. However, we feel as though he hasn't yet matched up to Luffy's wider accomplishments, such as the territories under his protection, family lineage, and influence shown through his Straw Hat Pirate fleet. So for that reason, we don't think that it would be fair to predict that Kid also has the same 1 billion berry jump, but it would be nice to see him get that recognition.
Moving on now, we got Mr. Nothing Happened, the final member of the monster duo, Roronoa Zoro himself. When talking about Zoro's performance in WANO, the list is so extensive that the only way to tackle this properly is to tackle this chronologically. So from the moment we're reintroduced, we see him creating waves in WANO, becoming an outlaw, attracting the attention of bounty hunters like Kamazo, who he had dealt with, but you know. He has publicly attempted to go for Orochi's head, creating havoc at Yasuo's execution. Also tanking multiple attacks from Big Mom and Kaido, making light work of deflecting both the elemental attacks, whilst being able to master Kinemon's fire cutting techniques. He additionally saved Luffy's life multiple times, not to mention the rest of the supernova alliance. He was also the first one to launch an attack devastating enough to ruin Big Mom's apprehension and advising Kaido to dodge, leaving both Yonko in a state of panic.
To the surprise of most of us in the community, Zoro was even able to momentarily defend against a joint attack launched by Kaido and Big Mom called Ocean Sovereignty. Although only for a moment, this is potentially the most offensively potent attack that we've even seen in the entire One Piece story so far. Even crazier still, he was then able to go on and contribute to the plot against Big Mom, in effectively putting Prometheus out of commission long enough for the rest of the alliance to remove her from the battle, only then to be able to somehow find the reserves to launch a final strike against Kaido. In Zoro's last stand, the long-awaited technique Ashura is later identified to be a culmination of both the Ryo emitted in Enma and Zoro's latent Conqueror's Haki abilities, which he had no idea he even had, making him the second person to have ever left a permanent scar on Kaido.
So we've deduced that his inspirational bounty is 1.9 billion and his predicted bounty is going to be 1.3 billion. Now we know this sounds a little high, seeing how his bounty currently sits at 320 million berries, but hear us out. Said K?
Now currently, the highest bounty we know for a Yonko commander to have in a story is around 1.3 billion berries, and this belongs to Queen. So here we can assume that King has a higher bounty. On top of this, from the information that we've been presented, Shanks' crew is renowned for having the most well-balanced crew in terms of strength. Now, Shanks' bounty is around 4.2 billion berries, and so we estimate that his vice captain and first commander, Ben Beckman, would have a current bounty somewhere around 2 to 2.5 billion berries. And so taking all of Zoro's feats into account, we think that it will be fair to put his aspirational bounty somewhere within that same ballpark.
And now here we are, folks, to the main man himself, the spearhead of the raid, public enemy number one, Monkey D. Luffy. Our boy has come such a long way in such a surprisingly short amount of time, and we understand that a lot of the community has questions about his progress. But if you ask us, this is what we've come to expect from the man who will become Pirate King. Although Luffy was late to join the party in Wano, he has wasted no time in making his mark and doing what he does best, by punching people in the face. He has escaped from Udon prison and led the rebellion of the prisoners, declared a full-out war against 2 Yonkos, added Jinbei, a former warlord of the sea, to his crew. X-Drake has also aligned himself with Luffy. Luffy has devastated countless members of the Beast Pirates, and he seems to be leading the alliance against the Yonko. But most importantly, he has overcome deadly encounters with the likes of Hold'em and Batman. Once Luffy eventually does make his way onto the rooftop, he wastes no time in showing off his 3 of his training, introducing Red Rock, a blow that Kaido just could not deny.
Off the back of this attack, Kaido compares Luffy to 5 of the greatest pirates that have sailed the seas, including the former Pirate King, Goldie Roger, and the world's strongest man, Whitebeard. Kaido also continuously praises Luffy on his spirit and tenacity, validating Luffy's status as a Yonko. Luffy is able to keep up and dodge multiple named attacks from both Kaido and Big Mom. He's applying pressure to Kaido in his dragon form whilst in gear 4th, but he's then able to keep up the pressure with Kaido in base form. As is mentioned by Momo when we are away from the rooftop, although tired, Luffy remains as high-spirited as ever. Interestingly, Kid and Luffy seem to be the only ones with positive expressions regarding the task ahead. Luffy notices that Kaido is dodging his attacks, which suggests that he has become more efficient in his use of Ryo or Advanced Armament Haki, whichever way you want to look at it. Later, he is put down by the full impact of Kaido's attack Ragnarok, but it appears that he's been able to maintain his will even though he seems to be unconscious. After witnessing Zoro's valiant last stand against Kaido, he makes the realization that he needs to coat his attack in Conqueror's Haki through applying the knowledge that he has learned through his Rio training. This is a skill that Kaido remarks only a limited few have an understanding of. He then begins to advance towards Kaido, landing seemingly devastating blows to Kaido, and ends the chapter with the confidence that he will be able to now handle this alone. In the most recent chapter, Kaido and Luffy seem to be clashing on equal footing, which is very reminiscent of the clash we saw earlier in the arc between Goldie Roger and Whitebeard.
Based on everything we just mentioned, we like to assign Luffy an aspirational bounty of 4 billion and a predicted bounty of 3.5 billion. Now this bounty is significantly higher than any of the other supernova, but there's method to our madness. Mugiwara has several territories in the New World, having claimed Fisherman Island and potentially going to claim Wano for himself. He's also amassed a pirate fleet of 5,000 pirates and is causing waves in the New World.
Considering the fact that we are about to approach the end of the story, Luffy only has a limited number of bounty increases left, and so we feel as though his bounty number should start reflecting the parallels between him, Gold Roger, and Shanks.
To sum things up, we have Killer at number 5 with an aspirational bounty of 1 billion and a predicted bounty of 800 million. At number 4, we have Law with an aspirational bounty of 1.2 billion and a predicted bounty of 950 million. At number 3, we have Kid with an aspirational bounty of 1.8 billion and a predicted bounty of 1 billion. At number 2, we have Zoro with an aspirational bounty of 1.9 billion and a predicted bounty of 1.3 billion. And in first place, with an aspirational bounty of 4 billion and a predicted bounty of 3.5 billion, we have Luffy.
Cool. So that about sums everything up. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to what we have to say.
Thank you for being here with us on our journey. This is our first video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Got a couple rough patches there, but as we go along, we should improve. So just bear with us.
So if you liked what we had to say and you're here for the long run, help us out by liking, sharing and subscribing, and we'll be back with you with the next video.
Also, we'd love to hear what you guys think. So if you lot agree, disagree with that, or have any other thoughts, please share it with us in the comments and we'll literally get back to you straight away, man. We've got nothing else to do right now.
Literally. So we're between the lines and we're out.